Alrighty, so why am I making this video? Well, I wanted to share this table with everyone um, that helps me to visualize the sport of wrestling within the context of the ecological approach. So, what is this table? What did I do? Well, I broke down wrestling into 4 different scenarios that I think covered everything. Each scenario has a definition, a primary goal, and example games that you can play from that scenario. First scenario is open. I define that as no contact has been made yet. The primary goal is to maintain your stance and to make contact safely. And here are some example games that you can play from that scenario. I'm not going to explain any of these games. That's not the point of this video. The second scenario is hand fighting / grip fighting. I define that as contact has been made, but neither player has a dominant grip or position yet. The primary goal is to get to a dominant grip or position. And here are some example games that you can play from that scenario. The third scenario is offense. That's when you have a dominant grip or position, and your primary goal is to score a takedown, and more specifically, force their hips to the mat, or force them into top turtle, and you get behind their elbows. And here are some example games that you can play from that scenario. The fourth scenario is called defense. I define that as your partner has a dominant grip or position on you. Your primary goal is to defend and then counter. And here are some example games that you can play from that scenario. So, why did I make this table? Well, let me explain a problem that I was having. So, the way I understand the ecological approach is that, for example, let's say we're talking about jiu-jitsu. You take this big game of jiu-jitsu and you break it down into smaller little games that you then use to teach people different aspects of the game, of the whole game. And that always made sense to me. I thought that was really cool. The problem I personally was having was I kept having these questions like, okay, I have all these games in my head. When is the right time to use each game? When do I switch between different games? Sometimes I'm playing games simultaneously. Which ones are okay to play simultaneously? And then how do I teach that to other people? So ultimately, I just wanted something that would like answer all those questions and would allow me to like organize my thinking and visualize the games in like, the most simplest way possible. And I think this table does this. So now with this table, instead of me worrying about every single game of wrestling possible, I just ask myself, okay, what scenario am I in? And once I answer that question, then I'm like, okay, cool. Whew. I don't have to worry about every game. I just have to worry about these games. So, for example, if I'm in a match and someone picks my leg up, I shouldn't be thinking, what are all the games that I can play? I should just be thinking, oh, I am in a defensive scenario because they have a dominant grip and position. I shouldn't be thinking about hand fighting games. I should be thinking about defensive games. I should be thinking wizard. I should be thinking sprawl. I should be thinking make distance. All of those things. Um, None of this is like new or revolutionary. And like it's very possible someone has already made this chart before. And this might seem obvious to people, and if so, like I apologize. I'm not really like an expert on the ecological approach. Most of the information that I have from it comes from my coach Chris in Austin, and like the one eco book I read, and like some social media posts. So sorry if this is like obvious or like too simple or whatever, but um, I just think that for me, the most valuable part of this is if I'm able to break down a game into like invariant scenarios that are very simple and easy to identify, then that helps guide me not only as a student of the game, but as a coach. And I think that that's very valuable, and that's what I wanted to share. Another cool thing about this table is that you can apply it to other sports or like zoom out from this. So right now, as an example, we're zoomed into wrestling, right? But let's pretend for example that we're talking about MMA. Well, if we zoom out, you can see that that table for wrestling can exist in this bigger table for MMA. And this table is very much the same one that has a scenario, and each scenario has a definition, a goal, and example games. I've only worked on the first row here for now, and I'm going to do the ground game next, but hopefully you guys can see the pattern here, right? Like if we look at this first row, now we're thinking about bigger, more meta scenarios. Now we're talking about wrestling. We define that as both players are on their feet. The primary goal is to score a takedown, and then if you want to look at example games, you zoom in into like the wrestling games. So yeah, that's it. I thought that was valuable. At least for me, it's valuable, and I think it's useful for my thinking. And I hope that by sharing it, maybe it'll help somebody else. So yeah, thanks for listening.